Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today we are joined by Adly Makary. He is the founder of MIMO. Adly, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm glad to be on the show with all of you guys.
It's great. It's great to have you here. We actually connected months ago. We had some technical difficulties when we were trying to record your episode for the first time. So I just want to say again, we really appreciate you taking some time to appear on the show and to talk to our audience. Today, we're going to actually be talking about the importance of client feedback. But before we get into it, I would love to know a little bit more about what you and the MIMO team are up to.
Thank you, Jonathan. So what we're doing is we created MIMO for one main thing. We were trying to reduce the effort in note-taking and improve the note-taking outcomes. So how many times for students or people in meetings that while they were sitting in the meeting taking notes, once they leave the meeting, they were like, oh, I have this discussion or this point, but I can't remember what we were discussing. It affects business meetings a lot, like if you're gathering requirements from a client, if you're a student when you're studying for your finals. Those are all issues that we face. So what we're doing here in MIMO, we try to synchronize multiple inputs such as video and audio with the PowerPoint or the PDF or notes or the paper, the agenda that could be in a meeting with the personalized notes. So, for example, while you're in a meeting or in a classroom, and someone is talking about a certain point in the agenda or the PowerPoint, and you want to go back to it. Let's say it was a biology class and the professor was talking about the brain. And you're going back to the brain point rather than you have to write every single word that the professor was saying. You just refer back to that slide and play, and then it plays everything that was all about the brain section. And then it has it transcribed as well. So if you are searching for certain words that you didn't even write about, or you can't remember which part of the PowerPoint or the presentation that was in it, then it reflects that as well. So this is the whole idea of MIMO, to make sure that people never miss a moment. They focus on what they are doing in the meeting. They can have the connection with in the class. They understand things very well, whether in a meeting or a class. At the same time, when they leave it, they have everything in place and easily organized for them so that it can refer back to any point from there.
Yeah, I think that's great. It sounds like this is an invaluable tool that allows you to be present and in the moment. Too many years ago when I was in school and you're furiously scribbling away trying to take these notes, and it can kind of, you're missing things. It's sucking you out of the experience. Only part of you is listening to what's going on. The other part of you is trying to write it all down. So I think I think it sounds like a very powerful tool. And again, as I mentioned, you are the founder of MIMO. So this is something that you have created, and I think that's also why you're sort of perfectly placed to talk to our audience today about the importance of client feedback. I mean, you have probably been getting a lot of feedback as you hone and develop your own product. So I think it's going to be great to talk about today that importance, client feedback. Why don't you take it away from there?
Absolutely.
Adly?
So with the client feedback, there are two aspects of it. There is the client feedback when you do when you start creating your products and you understand, you have your ideas and you need the client feedback and the market that you're going to be reaching out to. And as well, it's also very helpful throughout the product growth phase when you want to improve it. So one of the most important things that I feel like many of the founders and many even of product managers and in the companies they miss, they always think about it from the perspective of the people working on it. Talking from the perspective of software, the engineers usually dictate what they think is a great thing. for the client, which is usually not the best way of approaching, because you would miss a lot from based on the client feedback. So I'll start with a good example. You always have dreams, you always have ideas that you feel like this is going to be the new thing, or the big thing out there. And then once you start talking about it, or you create, some people take it in two approaches. Some people create the product and they release it, and then unfortunately it's not usually the big success because they didn't test the market. And some people just go out, reach to clients, see what do they think. And you will be surprised. In my case, for example, for MIMO, I reach out to, one of my markets is education. So I reach out to schools and universities. I was surprised of how much feedback, that things I never thought about. How much of things that, for example, that could be legally that would limit me in certain areas, and they need to work around it early on. And all of those things, you can't imagine how much money you would save, how much effort you would save just by getting ideas from the client and understanding their needs.
I just wanted to clarify. I mean, we are talking about specifically now during the product development phase. And so, you have this idea, and you're saying reach out to the people that you are thinking are going to be your ideal clients and get that feedback, like give them, sort of explain this idea to them, explain the process, and get feedback at this kind of early development stage.
That's correct. And also throughout the early development stage, that's when you're creating new product. Also, when you have an actual existent client that use it, if you have a product out there and you have existing clients that are using your products, they have feedback. They have so much feedback. They're the ones who are on day-to-day basis using your products. You need to understand what they are using most, what they have struggles with, what ideas do they have that can be additional to your product. Sometimes people think that this would take away from creativity and all of what you're adding or all of your product should come from the client. I'm not saying that at all, and that's not what I mean and my intention. The client feedback feeds in your creativity. You have to have your own touch, and which creates your own edge. You have to have that. But you need to understand what the people are looking for, and then you can even create something outside that, or like on a bigger scale from it. iPhones, when they were created, people were not looking for an iPhone, but they were starting to use cell phones. They were trying to understand, okay, how can we put something with music with an iPhone? Like, how can we have something that's portable with music? And then when you combine multiple areas from multiple feedbacks and multiple products out there, you start to create your own or add a feature to it. So this is what is very important from that aspect. And there's another thing that, from my personal experience, I felt is so important with the client. When you start sharing your ideas or what you want to do as a product or you want to get as an improvement, the people start buying into the idea from early on. They feel it. They feel the sense of ownership. They feel the sense of partnership with you on this product. So the willingness of forgiveness of issues that you would face with your product, whether it's an early phase or a new feature release, the people are willing to forgive because they feel like it's their own. They feel they're going to benefit from it. It's their idea and what they were presenting. It's something that they need, rather than just having all of them out of the loop and then you're creating something. So it's a free resource out there. Your clients are a free resource out there. You can you will use and you will benefit from tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a brilliant part of the process is making the client feel like part of your team. They have a vested interest. They like you said, they can almost feel a sense of ownership that they helped you to create this product or service. Two questions sort of spring to mind. Number one, what in your experience has been the best way to get this sort of either client feedback or potential client feedback? Is there a better way to frame it? Is there a tool with which to manage this feedback? How do you kind of then integrate that feedback or run this feedback by your team to find out, okay, this we like, this we don't?
So I would start with the first piece, how to get client feedback. If you have an existing client, it's usually easier. You get them on board, you talk to them. They would sense the benefit of it. So I would say if you have current clients that you're already using your product, it makes life much easier. But if you don't have one and you see a certain market in a certain area that you want to expand, then one of the strategies could be, how about offering that product for the people who are going to be providing feedback early on, for free for a certain period of time, or for free period, as kind of showing appreciation for their time. This is one way, and definitely it will be costly from the perspective of you're not going to make money from that perspective, but at the same time you're creating product and you're creating market out there. Also, if you can offer other services to those groups of people. So for example, my background is consulting, and if you can offer your own services in a way or the other, would say, okay, I'll help you in this area, but I would like a feedback from there. Anything, everyone has their own special skills that they can always offer, and see how they can provide the value for the clients or the potential clients, that they can get that feedback from them. And as a general rule, people are willing to help. You're taking from their time, but people in the general population are willing to provide assistance and help to see something comes out that would benefit them at the end of the day. So those are just some of the things I've used and have been successful, and maybe that would be for others as well.
Mm-hmm. And so how about this idea of, you're going to be getting a lot of feedback. How do you have a method for sorting between, there are going to be bad ideas. I mean, I know there are no bad ideas during the brainstorming phase, but, you will be getting ideas and you'll be thinking, okay, some of these things we can integrate, some of these things, we're not going to be able to do that. I mean, is there a discussion that you have? Is there a filter that you use? Kind of what's your method for dealing with this influx of advice?
So for each company, there's always a strategy or a mission for the company. As long as the ideas are, so this is the main border of filtration, or the borderline. Is it within your mission and your strategy for the company? Then it's an idea that is applicable and should be included. If it's totally out of the mission of the company, then I would not always discard it, like throw it away, but I would not put it on our list where it should be at this point. You never know what the future is going to bring, and as always, companies change their strategies over time, but you should not be always changing strategies. Other ways that will reflect bad on the company, because you will have no mission, you will not have a clear strategy or where you're going. Your team will always be confused if every day they have something new and that is out of the way. So as long as it's within your strategy, then it should be considered, and then it can go through other multiple considerations. Is it gonna provide a value? For how many people is it gonna provide a value? How hard is it to build it at this point? Should it be in a later stage or should it be in an earlier stage? This is then the other filtration. But if it's totally out of the mission and the strategy of the company, then it should be at least put on the side. And it depends. If you feel like it's going to be a good idea in the future, you can always have it somewhere where you have your future ideas. Like I usually have two notes, like a kind of billboard. I have one that has the things that we need to work on, and this is for our releases and for our company. And there are some for the futures. If things work out in a different way, then we are always aware of those things or those ideas. So it depends on where it goes. That's when I start sharing it with my team.
And my last question, and Adly, I think this will, especially for you as a founder, is there kind of a push and pull, a tug of war between your vision for the product, for the service, and between the kind of feedback that you're getting that this is a different idea, it might be a better idea, but this is my idea. Where do you have a line where you're like, no, this is what we are trying to do, this is what I am, this is my vision, and then are you compromising your vision? I guess as a founder, kind of how do you deal with some of those kinds of thoughts?
So it's a tough thing, because when you're a founder of the company and you're a founder of certain products, it feels like it's your baby. You want to make sure that they are done they're raised the way you want, that you want to do this. It's very tough in that aspect. So, but at the same time, as all, you need to be flexible. You need to understand that you're not always right. which is a tough I mean, for example, for me, it was a tough thing to learn. I'm not always right. I'm never going to be always right. I need to learn from feedback. I need to learn from my team before I need to learn from my client. I need to learn from the circumstance that are surrounding me. Certain ideas that can be starting as a good start, and they end up to be not the very best decision, but you will learn from them. Again, just not to digress, you need to start realizing what is the best for the company, not for you or for what you used to believe in for the company. It's what is the best for the company and the team. So if the feedback, even though contradicts with an idea that you had at the very beginning, but you start realizing that maybe you're wrong and you were doing something wrong, maybe you should start reevaluating. I wouldn't say just from the very beginning, like throw your idea away or throw what you were thinking away, but just start reevaluate. You have to be open and try to open your eyes. Share it with your advisors, with your team members. Like, we got this feedback, what everyone thinks, and start seeing the feeling of it and see where it takes you. But don't block it off just because you disagree with it from the very beginning, because you never know. Maybe this is the one that will save you later on from a disastrous thing in the company that you will face later on. So you have to be open, you have to open your mind and your eyes out there, because that's the whole purpose of the client feedback. If you're going to be filtering and choosing just based on what you believe in and not what they want, then it loses most of its value in this case.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Adly, this has been some tremendous content, and it's been fantastic having you on the show. If anyone in our audience is interested in connecting with you, learning more about MIMO, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
So if they want to personally connect with me, they can find me on LinkedIn and that will be as Adly Makary. And if they would like to know more about MIMO, we have our website, which is MIMO Note. It's MIMO Note.com. And then there's a contact page over there in case they can't find me. They can, all the contact page, majority of the information, I make sure I read any contacts and anyone who is going to be in touch personally. I make sure that I do that at this phase early on, as well as they can reach me, as I said, on LinkedIn as Adly Makary, and I'll be more than happy to provide anyone with any answers that they need or any help.
That's great. Adly, thanks so much for carving some time out for us today. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. It was my pleasure to be on the show.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.